What if I told you one of DC's most powerful heroes almost never existed? Because before she became Supergirl, before she inspired generations of fans, DC actually erased her from existence for years. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand why Kara Zor-El might secretly be one of the most tragic heroes in all of comics.
This is the way. This is the way.
Welcome to Fatherly Fandom. I'm your host, Chris, and if you love DC breakdowns, comic deep dives, superhero history, and all things nerdy, you're absolutely in the right place. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. And don't forget to click that bell icon too, because YouTube doesn't always turn on notifications when you subscribe. So if you want to stay up to date with all the amazing content coming out on this channel, you'll definitely want notifications turned on. Now let's talk about the Girl of Steel. So here's the crazy part. Supergirl was never supposed to exist. Back in 1940s and early 50s, DC Comics had a strict rule that Superman had to remain the last survivor of Krypton. That loneliness was a huge part of his mythology. But eventually, DC realized something important. Batman had Robin, Wonder Woman had the Amazons, Captain Marvel had Mary Marvel. Meanwhile, Superman was basically carrying the entire Superman family by himself. So then, in 1959, DC officially introduced Supergirl in Action Comics number 252. And the writer most associated with creating her was the legendary DC writer Otto Binder. Now, her origin immediately made her different from Superman. Kara Zor-El wasn't sent away from Krypton as a baby. She actually remembered Krypton. She remembered her parents, her world, her people. The original story explained that Kara's parents survived Krypton's destruction for a while inside a surviving chunk of the planet called Argo City. But eventually that environment became unstable, so Kara was sent to Earth to protect her baby cousin, Kal-El. There was just one problem. Her ship got delayed in space, meaning by the time she arrived on Earth, the little baby she was supposed to protect had already become Superman. And honestly, that one idea changed everything about her character, because Superman remembers Krypton as a dream. Supergirl remembers it as home. And guys, the Silver Age got absolutely insane. Now, if you've never read the Silver Age comics before, buckle up, because things got weird. At first, Superman actually hid Kara from the world while she trained in secret. She lived in Midvale Orphanage under the identity of Linda Lee before eventually becoming Linda Lee Danvers. But once DC realized readers really loved her, the stories became more and more outrageous. We got red kryptonite transformation, time travel stories, alternate dimensions, evil duplicates, super pets, alien romances, completely unhinged sci-fi plots every single month. Silver Age comics definitely feel like writers throwing every possible idea at the wall. And sometimes it worked, because despite all the craziness, readers connected with Kara emotionally in a way they didn't expect. She made mistakes, she got emotional, she doubted herself sometimes. And unlike Superman, who often felt larger than life, Supergirl felt younger and more relatable. Also, fun fact, Supergirl had a superpowered cat named Streaky, because comic books in the 60s were absolutely wild. Now we get to one of the biggest moments in DC history. In 1985, DC released Crisis on Infinite Earths, and this event completely reshaped the DC universe. But it also did something fans never expected. DC killed Supergirl. And not fake comic book dead, actually dead. During the final battle against Anti-Monitor, Kara sacrificed herself to save Superman and the multiverse itself. And at the time, this absolutely shocked comic fans, because superhero deaths weren't common back then. And this was way before the death of Superman. What made the moment even more emotional was Superman carrying Kara's body after the battle. That image instantly became one of the most iconic panels in comic book history. But here's the really crazy part. After Crisis on Infinite Earths, DC erased Kara from continuity almost entirely. Why? Because DC wanted Superman to once again be the sole survivor of Krypton. So for years, Kara Zor-El basically vanished, and fans never forgot about it. All right, we gotta talk about the weird replacement era. Okay, comic fans know exactly what I mean here. The 1990s were strange. DC wanted a Supergirl character, but they still didn't want Superman losing his last Kryptonian status. So instead of bringing Kara back, they created entirely different versions of Supergirl. There was Matrix Supergirl, Angel Supergirl, Linda Danvers Supergirl, shape-shifting versions. It got complicated fast, and if you read comics, you know sometimes this happens. Some of those stories actually became cult favorites, especially the Linda Danvers run. But for most fans, Kara Zor-El was still the definitive Supergirl, and eventually DC realized this too. Then finally in 2004, DC brought Kara back in a huge way, and this version of Supergirl felt completely different. Writers like Jeff Loeb helped helped reinvent Kara for modern audiences. This Supergirl had anger, trauma, survivor's guilt. She struggled with Earth and struggled with her identity. And honestly, it makes sense. Imagine losing your entire world, waking up on a strange planet, and realizing your younger cousin already became the world's greatest hero without you. Because unlike Superman, Kara's pain always feels closer to the surface. And over time, she evolved into one of DC's strongest standalone heroes. Not Superman's sidekick, not female Superman, her own hero entirely. Alright, we gotta ask, is Supergirl actually stronger than Superman? Now, this debate has existed for years among comic fans. Could Supergirl actually become stronger than Superman? And depending on the writer, the answer is sometimes yes. Like Superman, Kara gains incredible powers under Earth's yellow sun. Super strength, flight, heat vision, freeze breath, invulnerability, super speed, enhanced senses. But some comics suggest Kara's body adapted differently because she spent more time on Krypton before coming to Earth. And unlike Clark Kent, Kara usually fights with less restraint. Superman constantly holds back because he grew up around humans. Kara didn't, which means when Supergirl cuts loose, she can be terrifyingly powerful. And some storylines absolutely lean into that idea, especially alternate universe versions where Kara becomes far more dangerous than Clark ever would. Alright, let's talk about Supergirl in the movies and TV. Supergirl's popularity exploded outside of comics over the years. There was a 1984 Supergirl starring Helen Slater, which eventually became a cult classic. Then decades later, the CW series Supergirl starring Melissa Benoist introduced Kara to an entirely new generation of fans. And honestly, one of the coolest things about the CW version was how much it embraced hope and optimism during a time when superhero stories were becoming darker and darker. Now, Supergirl is preparing for another huge moment because DC Studios is coming out with Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, inspired by the acclaimed comic series from Tom King. And if they adapt that story correctly, this could easily become the definitive live-action version of Kara Zor-El. Because Woman of Tomorrow fully embraces Kara's trauma, loneliness, anger, and compassion. It's one of the best Supergirl stories ever written. Here are some of the most awesome Supergirl facts you may not know. Supergirl once became a Red Lantern fueled entirely by rage. Kara has been a member of the Legion of Superheroes. She once fought Darkseid after being manipulated during the Supergirl from Krypton storyline. In some alternate universes, Supergirl becomes one of the deadliest beings in existence. And yes, Supergirl once had a horse named Comet, who was secretly a magical centaur, because Silver Age comics had absolutely no chill. Alright, here's my final thoughts. What makes Supergirl so compelling isn't just her powers, it's the loss. Superman inspires people because he represents hope for humanity, but Kara herself represents grief. She remembers Krypton, she remembers the people she lost, and despite carrying all that pain, she still chooses to protect Earth anyways. And that's what makes Supergirl so special. Not the heat vision, not the strength, not the flight. It's the fact that after losing everything, she still becomes a hero. And honestly, that might make Kara Zor-El one of the strongest characters DC has ever created. But now I want to hear from you guys. What's your favorite version of Supergirl? The comics, CW series, animated movies? Or are you excited for Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow? Drop your thoughts down in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this video, make sure that you like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon, and share this with every DC fan you know, because we're just getting started here on Fatherly Fandom. Thanks for joining me, and as always, my friends, stay nerdy, and I will see you next time!